And it came to me then that we were wonderful traveling companions, but in the end, no more than lonely lumps of metal in their own separate orbits. From far off, they look like beautiful shooting stars, but in reality, they're nothing more than prisons, where each of us is locked up alone, going nowhere. When the orbits of these two satellites of ours happen to cross paths, we could be together, maybe even open our hearts to each other. But that was only for the briefest moment. In the next instant, we'd be in absolute solitude until we burned up and became nothing. Welcome back to the LOBLOLLY Pines Publishing Podcast. I'm KJ Duff, and that passage, spoken by the character Miyu from SPUTNIK SWEETHEART by Haruki Murakami, perfectly encapsulates the overarching theme of the story of human longing and loneliness. If you're new to this channel, Haruki Murakami is my favorite author. I've gushed over him before in my past review for his most recent novel, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. Go check that out. So I'm going to do my best here to temper myself. No promises. Before I get into the review, please don't forget to like, comment, and, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to be alerted to new reviews the moment they premiere. Also, the best way to support this channel is to buy my book, Halcyon Suicide. I mean this. If you have to choose between liking and subscribing or buying my book, buy the book. It's available in digital and paperback. The links are in the description below. One day I'll have more material to promote, but since my life is a shit show teetering on the edge of oblivion, my mind is not in the headspace necessary to concentrate on writing nuanced and profound stories. The only thing stopping me from plunging headfirst into the abyss is my obligation to all of you. So like and subscribe, and buy my book. Or else, I don't know what I'll do. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's jump into Haruki Murakami's SPUTNIK SWEETHEART. The story of SPUTNIK SWEETHEART is told from the perspective of the main character, simply referenced as K. K is a 25-year-old 4th grade teacher. His best friend, Sumari, is a 23-year-old aspiring writer. She loves to read and write, spending all of her energy and time immersed in literature. She even goes as far as dressing like a character straight out of a Jack Kerouac novel, right down to the oversized coat. She lives off a small stipend provided by her handsome dentist father and supportive stepmother, with the condition that the support only lasts until she turns 28. If she can't find success in literature by then, she'll have to learn to fend for herself. She doesn't care. She's happy. She wears mismatched socks, dirty undergarments, and her sleep schedule is erratic, waking Kay up with 3 a.m. phone calls from a phone booth near her relic of an apartment complex to ask questions like, what is sexual desire and what is the difference between a sign and a symbol? Kay is deeply in love with Sumari, so much so that it agonizes him. However, Sumari has no such feelings for Kay, for anyone, really. She cares for him deeply as a friend and loves sharing her writings with him because she trusts his opinion, but does not consider Kay romantically. In fact, Sumari has never been in love and doesn't know how it feels to be in love. That is until, at a cousin's wedding, she meets Miyu, a sophisticated businesswoman 17 years her senior, who specializes in importing and exporting wine. Sumari is immediately swept up by Miyu and for the first time feels a profound love. Miyu offers Sumari a job working for her as an assistant. Miyu takes Sumari under her wing, updates her wardrobe, pays well enough that Sumari can move into a much more modern apartment. As time goes by, Sumari changes everything about herself. She even stops writing, finding her every thought occupied by her desire for Miyu. When Kay helps Sumari move into her new apartment, she confides in him about Miyu, trying to work out her feelings for Miyu with him, not knowing that Kei is silently suppressing his overwhelming desire for Sumari. Both are in physical and mental agony. Sumari tells Kei she will take him out to lunch for his help moving so they can catch up properly, but the lunch date never happens. Kei receives a letter from Sumari where she tells Kei she and Miyu abruptly went abroad for work, gallivanting through Italy and France before making an impromptu stop in Greece. All the while, Sumari sends letters to Kei detailing her adventures with Miyu and her deepening feelings for her, while also confessing she misses Kei. She apologizes to him for missing their lunch date, but promises that once she returns from Greece, they will have the lunch she promised. However, the date comes and goes, and Kei doesn't hear anything from Sumari. He even calls her apartment and is only met with an outgoing message. One day, Kei receives a call. When he answers the phone, he expects to hear Sumari's voice. Instead, it's the voice of Miyu, and her voice sounds like it's drowning in urgency. She calls with dire news. Sumari has vanished into thin air from the island in Greece where they were staying and has been missing for 4 days. Miyu implores Kei to come to Greece to help in the search for Sumari. Kei drops everything immediately and finds his way to the small island in Greece and meets with Miyu. As Miyu makes the rounds with the local authorities and the Japanese embassy, Kei gets to work, retracing Sumari's steps in an attempt to piece together the puzzle Sumari has left behind. Originally published in 1999 by Kodansha and later in English translation in the United States and UK in 2001 by Knopf, then later Vintage, Sputnik Sweetheart is described by many as a love story combined with a detective story. While it certainly has those elements in it, it is none of those things, at least not in the conventional sense. What it is, however, is a profound existential meditation on human longing and isolation, but also something else. Honestly, this is the first time I've had to do research after reading a book. This doesn't mean the book is difficult, but there was something in the story, particularly in the end, that I didn't fully understand, and it's because of the way the book is described. Because I went into it expecting a love story combined with a detective story, I was looking for finality, a neat narrative that follows a thread, clues, mystery, and a solution. But this is Murakami. I should have known better. Before I get into the something else the story is about, let me say that reading Sputnik Sweetheart gave me the same feeling I got the first time I watched films by the French New Wave directors like Godard and Truffaut. The dialogue is often quick, witty, and the characters feel alive and authentic. The world Murakami crafts feels tangible. I can feel the summer heat of the nameless Greek island where Kei finds himself, and the coolness of the water on the beach he swims in. Kei seems like the typical Japanese man, but he is sarcastic, intelligent, yet simple and unafraid to express his emotions. Sumari is an eccentric character, headstrong and crass at times, but fiery and full of life. And then there's Miyu, who is the glamorous and sophisticated feminine mystique. These are characters that, and this is cliche, I know, leap off the page. As a male writer, it is often difficult to write female characters that would exist in real life instead of how a male would like a woman to be. It's like watching porn and then living your life and wondering why a woman didn't drop to her knees when you fixed her plumbing. Not that I've ever watched porn. I've never watched porn. It's just an example of fiction versus fact, okay? I don't watch porn, okay?
Please believe me!
Murakami is not the exception, and he's not perfect. But I feel like these women do feel real. Sumari feels like a naive, inexperienced young woman, and Miyu feels like a much more mature, experienced woman. Kei is the narrator, but he isn't just reciting words. The way he speaks, it's like you're having a conversation with a friend who's trying to recall a long, complicated story. He jumps ahead, back, and interjects with side stories before returning to the point. The story is also very unique, not in the topic itself, but in the way it isn't about solving how Sumari disappeared, But why? It is an answer that isn't delivered with a neat little bow. It takes a good deal of pondering. Thank God for Google. So there are many interpretations of the ending online. Some that make sense, some that don't. I won't go over them in detail here because I don't want to spoil the book, but some readers either think K killed himself or he crossed over to the quote other world where Sumeri was. But the more I read these interpretations, the more I felt that these answers, quote unquote, still didn't hit the mark until I stumbled on a Reddit post. A Reddit user by the name of Michael is very high, capital X, capital D. I forgive the name because the emoticon at the end shows me he knows the name is ridiculous, but I promise you, he makes the best case for the deeper meaning of the story. Michael makes the point that yes, the overarching theme of the novel is about human longing and loneliness. It is also about the disruption of the character's natural flow / natural behavior / natural state. Within the story, there are 3 stories told. Number 1, Sumeri tells a story of how when she was a child, her cat disappeared like smoke after running up a tree and being too afraid to come back down. Sumeri also says she never got another cat because she couldn't love another one, but she stopped looking for it. So because she gave up looking for it, it never came back. Also, she is a writer by nature, but she gave it up when Miyu appears and tells her she can't write until she truly lives. And because Sumeri is swept up in this love, she stops writing and even changes her appearance and everything about herself, essentially giving up her natural state / flow / behavior. Number 2, Miyu, after some prying by Sumeri, tells Sumeri that she was an accomplished pianist. She poured her heart and soul into the art of playing piano, but gave it up after suffering a horrible act. Since experiencing that traumatic event, she decided to never play again, and the pain of giving that up split her into 2 people and she never recovered. She can't give herself up to anyone sexually, not even with her husband who loves her so much he is okay with their relationship as is. Even if she desperately wants to be with someone, her body won't cooperate. She cut that part of herself away and it will never return. Or she has accepted that it's a lost cause. She gave up her natural state. And number 3, Shinichi, Carrot, as his classmates called him, a student from K's class, steals from a particular store over and over and gets caught the 3rd time. K is called over by the security guard to discuss with the kid's mom, who K is having an affair with, what actions should be taken. Why was this chapter important? Well, it is established in the book that because K truly loved Sumeri, he was incapable of having a real relationship with any other woman, so he always slept with women who were unavailable or who were taken. This mostly includes mothers of the kids of his class. This is a disruption of his natural state, but he doesn't notice until the end. The entire time, K was prepared to suffer the repercussions of his actions if it was discovered that he was sleeping with his students' mothers, but he never considered that the kid knew what was going on. The kid noticed that the natural flow of his own life was being disrupted by his mother sleeping with his teacher behind her husband's, his father's, back. So Carrot was acting out. The moment K realizes this, he breaks it off with Carrot's mom. The kid never steals again, and because while Sumeri was missing, K never stopped thinking of her, even reading her manuscripts of incomplete novels she had written to feel close to her, he is rewarded. Did I spoil the ending?
No, I don't think so. You didn't say how he was rewarded.
Oh, okay, good. Moving on. I think my confusion, and many readers' confusion of whether K killed himself or whether he crossed over to the other side to be with Sumeri or not, stems from misinterpreting the stories within the story, as well as the misgenreification? Is that a word? The misrepresentation of the genre. Expecting mystery, expecting love story, already sends readers in the wrong direction to the wrong conclusion because they are expecting a neat little narrative to make sense of the mystery. Of course, everyone is entitled to their interpretation of the story, but for me, when revisiting the story through this lens, the lens of natural state / flow, etc., all the stories within the story makes sense. Does that make sense? Sputnik Sweetheart is a fast read. I read it in 4 days, basically an hour each day. It is early-ish Murakami, playing with narrative and structure, first person and third person, and bouncing between past, present, and future scenes. It has all the signature things that makes a Murakami novel a Murakami novel. Allusions to crossing to another world, leaving a true self behind, his love of music, even the mention of getting stuck in a well, a thing that is revisited in other novels like Wind Up Bird Chronicles and Killing Commendatore. But there is a surprising element to this that I didn't expect. Queer romance. I think it surprised me because I thought Japan being so traditional, and this novel being published in 1999, the lesbian scene in the book would be derided by traditionalists. However, in my research, I was surprised to find that even the traditionalists understood that the feeling Miyu awakens within Sumeri is described as a storm Sumeri is swept up in, a similar sensation Kei alludes to feeling as well as he departs from Miyu on the small island. Even though Murakami is beloved nationally, Japanese critics, typically older critics, are not too high on him as a writer, often pointing to Murakami's tendency to write things that are, quote, un-Japanese, specifically his many references to Western culture. Music, movies, food, books, you name it. But I would argue that it's these references in his novels that makes all of his work relatable despite nationality. It crosses over cultures. There is also a sentiment by Japanese critics that he used the events of the Tokyo subway sarin attacks perpetrated by the domestic terrorist group, the Aum Shinrikyo cult in 1995. But in my research, I didn't see the correlation. If anything, by some happy accident in researching those events, the manga series 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa is actually heavily influenced by the horrors the cult executed, and it is critically acclaimed. I mean, it's really good. I own the entire collection. Yet Sputnik Sweetheart isn't even considered highly regarded. Even for anyone who is aware of those events, who says the novel dangerously floats around the idealism the Aum Shinrikyo cult pushed of abandoning the self, I still find it really hard to see a direct line from the story told in Sputnik Sweetheart to those horrific events. But hey, I am, quote, un-Japanese, so maybe I have no say in the matter. I'm just saying the correlation is non-existent in my opinion. Even if there is, it does not derail the reading experience or the story. Not one little bit. And that's my review of Murakami's Sputnik Sweetheart. Whether you're a fan of Murakami or a fan of magical realism, I highly recommend it. If you do choose to read this novel, remember it is not a conventional love story, and it is certainly not a detective story. If you have read this novel, tell me what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And remember that the best way to support this channel is by buying my book, Halycon Suicide, available in digital and paperback. Any support you can give is always and sincerely appreciated. I'm currently reading Homer's epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I was trying to finish before Christopher Nolan's film The Odyssey is released, but I don't think I will finish it by then. By the time I post this, it's going to be a week out, and I'm barely into book 3 of the Iliad. Even so, when I finish reading both epics, I will have the review up and ready to go for you. You've been listening to the LOBLOLLY Pines Publishing Podcast. I've been KJ Duff. Talk to you next time. Stay tuned. Oh, and a very special thanks to Reddit user Michael is Very High XD. Appreciate the illuminating analysis.